So how could Paul be poured out as a drink offering upon the sacrificial offering of their faith? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense in our world. We don't even have offerings, let alone different kinds of offerings, the grain offerings and the drink offerings and the sin offerings and the thank offerings. These are things that are very foreign to us as it is. Back then, it wasn't so foreign to them. They understood what was going on. These were familiar terms. That even though the Philippians were a Latin or a Roman colony, not so much Jewish, there's enough Jewish components in their society as well that they understood what these things were. And what Paul is saying in this verse here is, he's saying, you all are living your lives as an offering to God. Romans 12 talks about living your life as an offering to God. And he's commending them for their sincere, sacrificial, faithful offering of their lives to God. The previous verse, or previous chapter in 129, he says, for it has been granted for Christ's sake for you not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for his sake. So they were suffering deeply for the gospel. They were suffering on the outside, they were suffering on the inside as they were following Christ. And all of this was an offering to God. It's because of the gospel, because of the truth, because they were willing to forsake the world. You have the slave girl in Philippians who, as we see in Acts 16, she was that oracle girl who was following Paul around saying, these are the prophets of the Most High God. And so then she comes to Christ, and it's not a far leap to think that she's going to this church now. We don't know for a fact. But so she forsook her old life and now is following Paul. You have Lydia, the seller of purple linens, coming to Christ and now following what Paul is saying in the church of Philippi. So they're suffering, and their entire lives are being given back to God as an offering. And he says, if I'm being poured out as a drink offering upon the sacrifice and service of your faith, what that means is back then they had another offering where they would have a burning offering going on, and then they would take another offering, a drink offering, and they would pour it on. If you can imagine taking like a can of soda and pouring on a campfire, you're going to have that campfire is going to sizzle, smoke's going to rise on up. And the whole point of the offerings were to symbolically demonstrate that I'm putting this onto the altar, it's being burned, or the smoke is rising on up, and it's pleasing to God. These are pleasant aromas you see throughout the Old Testament. And so what Paul is saying is, you folks are already a sacrifice for God. You're already burning for God, so to speak, and God is now taking me as a drink offering, and he's pouring me on you as well, because I'm so intermingled with your ministry. What you're doing is so much of what I was doing when I was with you, that all of us are now sizzling and burning, and that smoke is rising up to God. God is seeing all of us, what we're doing. He's seeing your sacrifice. He is seeing my sacrifice for the gospel as I'm in jail in Rome, and all the time that I was laboring for Christ when I was with you. All of that is burning back to God as a smoke, a pleasing aroma back to the Lord.